Sure, as I put a cough candy in my mouth. Welcome, everybody. Most people have joined us from last week, and thank you for attending. Most of you know Ruth, so we'll skip the introduction that we had last week. This is the continuation of part 2 of the Secretaries course. I think tonight is going to be more interactive. I think a lot of questions to be asked and discussed. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Lion Ruth.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Okay, I'm going to repeat something that I did say last training session as well, just in case you've forgotten, but it is meant to be two-way as much as possible. I want you guys to share with me what you already use as tips or tricks. I also want you to share with me questions, because I'm a firm believer there's no such thing as a dumb question. The only dumb question is the one not asked. So I'm going to ask you to interrupt me. Now, I know you can't throw something at me, which would usually take place if we were in a classroom, but you can wave your hands. Please use the chat, type in there. Jamie's going to be keeping an eye on the chat for us, and he will stop me if we do have questions that someone needs clarification on something, or if you have some comments you would like to add as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen, and okay. And Jamie, I'm going to check with you to just make sure that it is showing properly.
Yep, absolutely.
Great. Okay. Oops, and I'm going to hide that. All right. As we mentioned, this is the actual opportunity for you to get a second half of the actual training material. So I'm going to go through some of the material with you. And as I mentioned, we will hopefully have some discussion both ways. We're also hoping that we're going to have an opportunity. Okay, I'm having some slight technical challenges here. Just give me a second. There we go. And again, please mute yourself when you're listening to myself or to others when they're asking questions, but unmute yourself when you need to. And it's nice to have the video so that we can see your faces. But the the chat, which I just passed by, is the area that we're going to encourage you to try and use as much as possible. So if you have an answer to a question I've raised, or if you have something you would like to add, please feel free to use that as much as possible. All right. This time, as part 2, we're going to be covering some new material. We're going to cover things that are not the paperwork, which we covered the first time, but more information that you need to know in order to do your job properly. So again, I'm going to ask you a question of what do you hope to learn today? Because today we were, going to be focusing on membership dues and reporting. So is there something from the last session that you'd like to, have us review if necessary? Is there something within this particular section that is really important to you? And or is there something in addition that you're hoping to see covered? So go ahead and type those into your little chat boxes, and Jamie will keep an eye on those for us. And again, feel free to use that chat box as often as you like. And Jamie, is there anything in there yet?
No, everybody knows everything there is to do this.
Okay.
Secretary. So, we got something coming in now. No, here's Luce has something. Everything having to do with reporting to district.
Okay. I've got material that will be directed to the secretary's job at the club level, but also how you interact with the district as well. Okay, so for today, we're going to talk about membership. And what I mean by that is we're going to be dealing with the different types of membership and some details about each of those types. So we got types, we've got categories, and we're going to review all of that material with you.
Ruth, I just had one, if I can just interject. Lori Dean asks, this question is always based on what various people tell me. One is there a time limit on set minutes being sent out to members?
There isn't any official time limit as to when they have to go out. One thing that I learned when I was secretary is if I did the minutes as soon as I got home, they were more accurate. If I waited and done them 2 or 3 days just before the next meeting, I sometimes had trouble remembering, what the actual portion that I needed to document. So sometimes it's better to do it sooner, but you don't have to send them out right away. If there is especially information within the minutes for people to follow up on, people that have to bring a report to the next meeting or a particular motion that has to be tabled at the next meeting, then it's better to give them at least 3 or 4 days out. If it's a case where there's not a lot of follow-up required, 2 days before the meeting is usually plenty, or even the day before. You just want to make sure people have a chance to print them out and read them if they're the type that like to have the paper in their hand, or at least have an opportunity, if they get a lot of emails, to have that email and have it early enough for them to read it and review it so that they can come to the meeting prepared to vote on issues or whatever the case may be. Jamie, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think, the sooner the better. You have to get them out if you can.
Okay. I'm also sorry, Jamie, you were cut out there for a bit.
Anyways, I don't know how much you caught of that, but I was going to say, it was my experience, because I was when I was club president way back when, I think I was president / secretary, because we couldn't get anybody to really commit to it. We had somebody in the slot, so I was doing the agenda and also doing the minutes when I was president. But it was my experience to do them as soon as I possibly could find the time after the meeting. In case you forgot anything or things were a little fuzzy, they tend to be a little fresh in your head rather than trying to get them done the day before the next meeting. So, you got to do them, try to get them done sooner rather than later.
Great. Okay. And if anybody has any suggestions on why they send their minutes out when they do, please feel free to share that with us. In the meantime, the items we're going to talk about are the dues. And when I talk about dues, I mean the dues that we have to pay to LCI, Multiple District A, our district, and also the dues related to our clubs and how we sort of fit all of that together. And the last portion that we're going to talk about tonight is reporting. And here I'm talking about reporting like the election results, membership information, things dealing with zone meetings. So you need to know what you need to report. You also need to know when you need to do that reporting. So we'll be covering some of those for you. Okay, first thing I want to do is talk about the membership. And there's a fair amount of information, especially when you get a brand new member coming into your club, that you really need to have recorded. And obviously name, address, phone number, but we're also interested in gender, which you can pretty much guess that one, but we're also interested in date of birth. And that was something many years ago we didn't even bother collecting. We're trying to do that now. So it helps Lions International, as well as our multiple district and district, to get a better idea of our actual membership and to find out what age groups we're dealing with. What age groups are we keeping? Which ones are joining us? So that we can actually gear our information to it. So we're hoping to be able to get the information so that we know, do we need to target younger members? Do we need to target Leos? Do we need to be doing something different for our long-term members? So age is now something that we do want to definitely include. And when we actually put that information, and all that information, by the way, goes into my LCI, and there's going to be separate training on that. When we actually put that information in there, obviously the club president, secretary, and treasurer have access to that information so that they can go in and they can see, you know, who's been added and who's been dropped and that sort of information. But in addition to that, also your zone chair, your district governor, your global action team members, they have access to it as well. Keep in mind, as secretary, you're the one that gets to be able to add the person or make changes. These other people, like the zone chairs and the district governors and the global action team, they cannot make any changes. It's a view only access for them. So they go in sometimes and look at your club's information. I know when I was zone chair, that's what I did. I went ahead to see, are there any, you know, long-term Lions that I should be recognizing in that club? Are there any past district governors, so that when I, you know, talk to them, I understand, you know, who's who in the club? Are there any brand new members that I should be welcoming? So I can get all of that information just by going in and looking at the club information. So it helped me as a zone chair. It also helps your governor and your vice governors that are coming up the chain as well. So it is important information. It needs to be in there and it needs to be accurate as much as possible. Some of the important details, believe it or not, name and address need to be spelled correctly. Phone numbers and email addresses are critical, because if a member of your club wants to sign into My Lion, they need that information to be accurate. So when they go to log in the first time, when they go to register, they're able to do so. If the phone number has dashes in it and they don't put a dash, or if their last name was all in uppercase instead of upper and lowercase, those were things that were causing our members a lot of trouble registering and trying to get into My Lion. So we try to encourage as much as possible for the secretaries to recognize that they need to be consistent how they put the information in there, and they need to validate to make sure that it's right. So changes, as I mentioned, can be done by the secretary. They have the opportunity to make changes at any time of the year. They can go in and do it today, and then if there's another change for that same person, they can go back in later today or tomorrow and make another change. Changes, as I mentioned, are done in my LCI. I do have a couple of screenshots from there just to give you an idea, but I won't be going through the full structure of how to use that, because that'll be done in a future training session. And one of the tricks that I did when I was secretary was I would print out the information. You can print out a roster with details. You can also print out other bits of reports that you can then share with your members. And what I did was I passed them around at our face-to-face meeting and said, please review your name, address, all the other information that's on there. If it's right, initial it. If it's wrong, make the corrections for me and give it back to me. So by doing that, I was able to make a lot of corrections, and people were happy, because people who were not getting their Lions magazine all of a sudden started to get it, and other people were now getting the minutes of the email because they couldn't figure out why they weren't ever getting it. So all these corrections did make a bit of a difference. So here's a couple that I'm going to show you. This is a sample of my actual Lions record in my LCI. And as the global membership coordinator for the district, I'm able to actually go in, but I can only look at it. I can't make any changes. you'll notice that right after my name, there is a number there. That's my membership number. A lot of members don't know their membership number. If they don't, then this is where you can find it. I also got into the habit when I printed out the membership cards for the people once they paid their dues. I actually wrote their membership number right on the card so that they had it for a reference, because they can also use that to register when they go to get into My Lion. And you'll see that it tells me I'm a regular member and I transferred to this club in October of 2009. You'll see that for the year 2020 to 2021, I am the GMT, the Global Membership Team Coordinator. And there's my address. My officer address is there as well. And the reason why we have two different address places is a lot of secretaries and presidents will have their regular home address, and then that's where their Lions magazine gets mailed to. But then they have their officer address, which is the address of where information from Lions International or from the district governor or from the zone chair, where if they're mailing them something, that's where it goes to. So for president, secretaries, and treasurer, if they ever move and have a change of address, you really need to change it in two places. One on the member's record right here, and secondly, on the officer's record. Now you'll see that it says I've been a Lion since, oh my God, 1981. I was 10 years old, somebody told me. I was 10 when I joined. Don't I wish. I'm a female, and there's my birthday. So now you know for sure I wasn't 10, but that's okay. So that information may seem, oh, okay, it's no big deal, but it is a big deal. It needs to be accurate. It needs to be put in there on a timely basis. There was a history button as well, and that history basically shows you where I went from. So I was actually a charter member of the North Delta Dogwood Lions. That was an all-female club, and I was actually charter president at that time. And then I transferred over to the Peace Arch Monarch Club. They were closer to my home, and so I transferred over there. And then we moved from BC out to Ontario. So now I'm part of the Victoria Harbour Lions Club. So that history basically is good because it shows where I've been. So if I've been to more than one club, that information will be recorded there, but it has to be put there by the secretary. And there's also another section called Officer History under that history section. And this basically shows you all the different positions I held at the club level that was at the executive level, meaning president, secretary, treasurer, that sort of stuff, and at the zone and district level. So as you can see, there was different times where I was at the club level, service chair, secretary, but I was also a zone chair, and I was also the membership coordinator. So I had different positions at different times. So this is a nice record for me to have. And again, it's something I would have printed out, given to the person and said, are we missing anything? And if we are, then I go back in and I fix that for them.
Ruth, if I can just add that, the importance of this history information, secretaries may be called on from time to time to go into this in the event of a passing of a Lions member, to extract this information for a memorial service so that they can talk about some of the different committees and some of their officer history that the passing Lion has served under.
A very good point, Jamie. I hadn't even thought of that. I know I've used it when I was secretary, when people were running for higher office. In order to be a zone chair, they had to be either a president or secretary, and we had to write a letter showing, what year that those things happened. So this is where I would go to get that information, so I could actually mark down, yeah, this person was a president this year and secretary on this year. And so that was helpful. But the memorial, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that at all. Okay. Now, this next a couple of slides are gonna seem really heavy duty, but they're not. And the good news is I have a handout that I will email to each of you when this session is over tonight that actually puts that information in a nice format for you to have, so it's easy. But I just want to go over some of the different membership types. And a regular member is your standard Lion who joins a club and is just by themselves and going to participate. A regular member pays full dues and all that sort of stuff. Family member is, there's two types of family member. There's the head family member and then just the family member. The head family member pays full dues, and they can have up to 4 people living in their home that can be family members and only pay half the LCI dues. So instead of paying $43 for the year to Lions International US, they pay $21.50 for those other 4 people. The thing is, they need to be family members, either like spouse or common law, grandparents, parents, kids, but they need to be of legal age and they need to be living at the same address in order to qualify as a family member. So it's a great opportunity for some families where they don't have, a lot of funds, and they're sort of weighing, like, geez, do we really want 2 or 3 members of our family in the Lions? This is a great way to get them to think about it, because the first one pays full dues, all the other 4 can pay up to half dues. Student member is a person who is still in school under the age of 30 that is joining a Lions Club, and LCI will actually waive their dues for them so that they don't have to pay the LCI portion of it. And a Leo Lion member is a member that is a Leo and belongs to a Leo's club, but also belongs to a Lions Club. That doesn't happen too much in North America. That's something that usually happens more in the European countries. And in that case, again, they get to get a reduced membership. And with a former Leo, they actually get to, again, waive some of the initiation fees, the entrance fees. So those are just the different types. So those are on a drop down when you're adding a brand new member into My LCI. You'll click on the little drop down and you'll pick whichever one that they particularly belong to. The categories are a little more descriptive. A regular member can be an active member or other types, and I'll go through all of them with you. So we need to sort of help you understand the categories. And at the same time, I'm going to talk about some of the responsibilities and dues that are related to it. So with a regular member, they're the ones that are active. They are coming to meetings, they're working on projects, and they pay regular dues. So whatever the dues are for a member at the LCI level, the multiple district, the district, and the club level, that's what they're paying. An affiliate member, they basically are able to participate or not able to participate. So what they want to do is they still want to support the club. They still want to financially support the club in a different way. So what they do is they stay as a member, they become an affiliate member, but they're not able to come, and it might be job related, it might be other reasons for it. And basically they still have to pay LCI, MDA, A12 and club dues. However, because they're not coming to all the meetings, that sort of stuff, they really aren't able to run for office at the district or higher level. When they are at a meeting, because sometimes they will, get a chance to come to 1 or 2 meetings, they can only vote on club issues. They cannot vote on any issue related to the district, multiple district, or LCI. Your associate member, this is where they are a regular member or an active member in their home club, and they have an opportunity to join a second club. And the best description I can give of that are snowbirds. Snowbirds, when they're at home, they're with their club and they're just a regular active member. When they go down to Florida or Arizona or wherever they go, they may have a Lions Club down there that they want to work with, so they become an associate member. At that associate club, they pay the club dues there. They don't pay LCI and multiple district and district dues because they're already paying that at their home club. They cannot hold any office at the district or higher level. When they are at the associate club, they can only vote on club issues, and they're not able to represent the associate club at any conventions. So they can represent their home club, but they cannot represent the associate club. So that's somebody who's active in one club, an associate in another, because of the fact that they're usually snowbirds. That's the highest number of associate members that we do have. Now the next one is honorary member. And you have to be careful with this one because a lot of clubs don't realize that when they make someone an honorary member, the club is responsible for the dues. So you want to be sort of kind of careful with this one. So they're not actually a full-fledged Lions member, but they're granted an honorary membership by a particular club. And usually clubs will do that, if somebody has done some outstanding service. Sometimes some clubs will do that if they have a member of parliament or a politician that's in their area that for political reasons don't want to join a specific club, so they'll make them an honorary member. Now that honorary member does not pay club dues. The club, however, is responsible for paying on behalf of that member LCI dues, multiple district dues, and district dues. So if you make somebody honorary, you need to realize you've got to pay their dues for all those 3 levels for as long as they're an honorary member of your club. So something to think about. A life member. Now a life member at the LCI level is usually a Lion who's maintained active membership for at least 20 years. Or in the case of severe illness, a lot of times when they reach the age of 70 and have at least 15 years, they can also qualify as life membership for LCI. And sometimes they'll be granted just based on any critical illness, regardless of age. Now the LCI charges a one-time fee for that, and it's $650 US. When you make someone a life member of LCI, there's still club dues, district dues, and MDA dues that are required to be charged to that individual. Some clubs will actually do the honors of paying those other 3 dues on behalf of the life member. Some clubs don't. So again, that's up to the individual club. We also have an MDA life membership. And at the MDA, it's again, at least 20 years of service, usually because of some great outstanding service that they've done in their community, or someone who is critically ill. So a member of the club, again, if they've had at least 15 years or more, they're at least 70 years of age or more. What we do at the multiple district level is they need a recommendation from the club. It needs to be approved by multiple district A governor of councils, and a one-time payment of $200 Canadian by his or her club. And that would then qualify them for a life membership at the multiple district level. Member at large. This is a member of a club who's not able to attend regular meetings, but wants to keep their membership going. A lot of times it's due to work issues where they do a lot of travel, or it might be military when they're on duty. So in their case, in order to maintain their membership, they become a member at large, which means that they still have to pay dues to LCI, Multiple District A, District 12, A12, and the club. Because they're not around, they really cannot hold any office at the district or higher level. When they are at a meeting, they can only vote on club issues, and they cannot vote at any convention. So again, it's meant to try and keep members, because obviously their job might change, or their military may come to an end, so that they do want to maintain their lines membership. The last one is the privileged, and the privileged is a member who has 15 years or more, but has to give up becoming an active member because of illness, infirmity, or just old age a lot of times. A privileged member, a lot of times we're finding, is in the case of illness, and they are still required to pay LCI, MDA, and 12 and club dues as well. Again, they cannot hold any office. Obviously, if they're ill, that they wouldn't be doing that anyways, and they can't run for higher level of any sort. So those are the categories. Now, in the next slide, I'm going to show you where we sort of combine the dues, the rights, and the privileges. This is part of a handout that I'm going to be emailing you tonight when this is over. So you don't have to write it all down. But basically, it's a great way where it shows you the actual status. It tells you what club dues or what dues they have to pay. It shows whether or not they can hold an international or district office. It shows what voting privileges they have, and if they can become a voting delegate at one of the conventions. So it's a nice compact way of putting together all the information that I just sort of covered with you on each of those different categories. And you're probably saying, well, why do I need all that information? You do, because as secretary, you need to make sure that you're recording who has paid their dues and who hasn't. And so you need to know how much those dues are. You need to know which ones they have to pay and which ones they don't. So yes, the treasurer is going to be involved as well, but as secretary, it is one of your responsibilities to keep track of who paid their dues and who hasn't, because at some point, your board of directors will have to deal with members that don't pay their dues. And talking about dues, this
We lost you, Ruth. Audio. There you go.
how's that?
That's good.
My back. Okay. So the LCI dues are $43 a year US. There is, for all people that are joining, an entrance fee of $35, again, US. And as we mentioned earlier, if you're a family member, the head person pays the full 43, but the other 4 family members will pay $21.50 instead. And student members don't have to pay those LCI dues at all. At the multiple district level, it's $17.50 Canadian per member per year. And that is September, I believe. The invoices go out so that you have an opportunity to get invoices at different times. LCI sends theirs out a little earlier than the multiple district one. When you do receive the dues invoice, you need to recognize that they are based on the membership numbers. So with LCI, it's based as of June 30th. No, sorry, as of July 1st. So whatever number of members you have on July 1st, that's how much you're going to get billed for, $43 for each of those members. With multiple district, it's effective as of June 30th, and I'm not quite sure why. Jamie, are you aware of why they moved it to the 30th instead of the 1st?
No, I think it was the 30th, and I think the LCI had it at July 1st, and then he moved it back to the 30th. But then he found a lot of people were dumping membership on the 30th, and they didn't think that was fair to the outgoing governor, so they switched it back to July 1st.
Okay, good to know. And we do have clubs that are called campus clubs, where we actually form a Lions Club on an actual campus. And in the case of the campus clubs and students, if they're 30 years and younger, then we actually waive the MDA dues as well.
And I believe we passed a motion 2 years ago for the same thing to apply for A12. That if you have a student in your club, they can you'll have to prove the paperwork to LCI if they're a student to get the fees waived. And it was deemed at MDA and also at A12 if such a student would endeavor to prove that they, were eligible for that, the MDA and A12 would honor that as well. I'll double check that. I'm pretty sure we passed that motion with A12.
Okay, great. And our district dues right now are $10 Canadian plus a Lions Learning, used to be weekend, now webinar, fee of $6 Canadian. And that is sent out July, was it? No.
What is that, Ruth?
For the district dues. I forget which month they mail those ones out.
Yeah, the district dues, they are according to Lions Club's records as of August 1st. They usually go out in September, October. They usually get mailed out.
Great. So these are the dues. And then in addition to the ones that you mail out, there's also what we call club dues, where your club expenses need to be covered by dues as well. And that varies from club to club. Some clubs, look at their expenses and round it off to the nearest $10, and then that's what they charge. So again, it's going to vary depending on the club. When you add all of that up, then that's what your members are going to be paying. And it's good information to have when you've got a new line coming on board, because they usually need to know, how much am I going to have to pay? You also need to let them know if it's a meal that you're having with one or two of your meetings, and you need to let them have a general idea of what that meal would cost, just so that when people are coming in, they're not sort of shocked at the dollars and cents portion of it. Truthfully, the most expensive part of Lionism really isn't the dollars and cents, it's our time. I feel our time is really, really valuable, especially as volunteers. Okay, any questions before I continue on?
Just a confirmation in the cabinet meeting on October 27th in 2019 that the District A12 follow the example of MDA and waive dues and LLW assessments for full-time students and LEOs under the age of 30 graduating to Lions effective July 1st, 2020. So
great.
We have it at this district as well.
Okay. So as I mentioned, I will send out the handout breaking down the categories and all that other information. So hopefully that will be helpful to you.
We have a question or a comment from Barbinis. Lately, all the dues have been sent out at the same time, so there is less confusion.
Yes, it would be nice if they all, in fact, it'd be really nice if they all came on one bill, but unfortunately it's different entities, so it makes it a little harder. to get all those entities to agree on doing stuff, especially when you're dealing with Lions International, which are US dues, and the multiple district and district that are dealing with Canadian dollars. So we try our best. Most of them are done close together. Some clubs actually complain about that. They don't want them all at the same time because they want to be able to sort of spread it out over the first couple of months while members are bringing in their payments for their dues, because not everyone is kind enough to bring their dues and pay it prior to July 1st.
This might be a good time if anybody has any questions, they want to raise their hand or raise their hand in their video, and I'll see them. We can unmute them if they want to ask a question.
Yes, if you want to do it verbally, by all means, please do.
Okay, seeing none.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to reporting. And membership reporting is something that we want the secretaries to do on time, every month, whether there's changes or not. The monthly changes, if you add a new member or if you drop a member, it automatically updates Lions International when you put the information into My LCI. The good news is when that happens, you don't have to worry about doing a report for that month, because dropping a member or adding a member forces the report to generate automatically. When you're doing the reporting, there are times when there are no changes. You haven't added anybody, you haven't dropped anyone. The good news is My LCI has one single button that you just click on that says no changes. That's all you have to do is get to that screen, click on the button, and you're done for the month. Now, I know it sounds silly, like, well, why do we even have to do that? If there's no changes, we just leave everything alone. The problem is that we don't really know if you've not had any changes. Is it because your secretary just didn't want to do it, or is it because you've been too busy and didn't get it done? So it's more of a bit of a reminder of, hey, don't forget, you need to put that information in there. Dropping members is just as important as adding members. When you add a member, that's when Lions International is going to start recognizing that individual. That's when their join date is in the system, that whatever you key in there. So they're going to say, oh, okay, this is a person from Lion from this day forward. When you're dropping a member, it's important for a couple of reasons. One, if that member wants to transfer to another club, that other club cannot pick them up until you've dropped them. So you may be holding up work for the other club. So if somebody is transferring, please drop them so that they can get picked up and transferred into the other club. The other reason is billing purposes. You're going to get billed, come that July 1st or June 30th date. You're going to get billed if you still have their name on there. We've seen clubs carry people that have dropped, actually people that have died, and they kept paying for them for 2 and 3 years afterwards. And that's not fair to the rest of your club members, because your dues are staying high because you're carrying people that aren't there, they aren't paying, obviously, if they've died. So that expense has to come from somewhere, and it's coming from your clubs, which means it's being split over all your members. All your members are carrying those extra people when they shouldn't have to. So whether you're adding or dropping, please do it promptly. You can also make any changes to name, address, phone number, all of that sort of information. Again, you can do it at any time. Doesn't have to be done on the 1st or the 30th or whatever. You can do it at any time. The only thing you won't be able to change is their last name or the date that they joined. That bit of information is not changeable.
Ruth Beth has a question. How do you know that someone has dropped unless they don't pay next year's dues when they bill once a year?
Hopefully your membership chair is doing their job. As a membership chair, anyone that doesn't attend meetings should be followed up on. So hopefully, if that person has not attended a meeting for 2 or 3 months, somebody's phoning them and saying, hey, we missed you. Where are you? Are you coming back? What's going on? So hopefully that's the case where you can follow up on people, especially as a secretary. If you're taking attendance, it should start to really, become obvious that this person hasn't been around for a while. And at a board of directors meeting, that's when it should be raised, saying, hey, we've got 3 members here that haven't been to meetings in the last 3 months. What's going on? Maybe we should follow up with these people. And people sometimes just need to feel needed. They want to feel needed. They need to feel needed. And if they've missed 3 months in a row and no one's called them and no one's talking to them about it, they're not feeling needed at all. So follow up, call them. If your membership chair won't do it, as secretary, please do it. Because otherwise you're going to lose.
And Lynn asked the question, what if a female gets married? And I think she's referring to the name, if there's a name change.
Yes. What you do is you have to send a request into Lions International, and you have to state the reason for the name change. I'll be honest with you. My typing's not the best some days, and I've misspelled people's names. When I passed out that paper, somebody went, that's not how you spell my last name. So I knew I couldn't change it directly, just going in like I could with an address. So I actually had to send an email to Lions International and state the reason why I needed to have the name changed. And they changed it for me. And that's what they'll do in the case of a marriage or divorce, or if we've gotten things wrong, like the date that they joined. But you have to have some sort of backup for it. Hopefully that answered that. Okay, as we mentioned, all of this information is recorded in MyLCI. And when you get the training, they'll actually show you how to get to those screens and how to actually make the necessary changes and the necessary updates. Another area of reporting is for elections. Ideally, we hope that all clubs complete their elections before the 15th of April. And we hope that all secretaries fill in that information in the appropriate spot. And I'll show you the screen in a moment. But even if somebody, like someone said, well, all of it, especially during COVID, all of the officers from last year have decided just to stay on for this year because we didn't want to have an election because of, not wanting to be face-to-face, et cetera. Well, yeah, that's fine. But you still need to report that. You still need to let Lions International know that that's what's happening. So even if one person or the whole board of directors stay on for additional years, you still need to report that information. Now I'm going to show you a screen. Here we go. So under my clubs, there's a section related to elections and officers. And you can actually, if you need to make a change, you can do it for the current year or for next year. The past years, you can't make any changes. You can just see what was there. But for the current year, so if the current secretary decides to win the lottery and go off for 20 years to enjoy themselves, you're going to need a new secretary. So you would use the current year, you would go in there, find the secretary, remove the person that's there and put in the new secretary. If it's election time and you've completed your elections, then you want to do the next year. And the next year will then have empty slates and you just fill in all the empty boxes. So you put in who got elected as president, secretary, treasurer, et cetera, even if it's the same person again. You still need to put all that information in there. Okay, and I'm trying to think of something else I want to tell you about that. Oh, another reason why it's important, and ideally to try and get it done before the 15th of April, is that District A12 also uses that information to create our district roster. So if you don't put that information in, Maureen, who's the lady that's been doing our roster for us for a number of years now, she starts pulling her hair out because she really needs that information in there in order for her to be able to finish the roster. So please do that. She records the president and the secretary and sometimes the treasurer, depending on the club and the information that's given to her. And puts all that information along with where your club meets and what day and what time and all that other stuff. So again, there is a space within my LCI of club information where it records what day you meet, what time you meet, and where you meet. So if any of that changes as secretary, you need to go in there and change that too. Okay, the last section that we want to talk about was zone meetings and reporting. Every zone chair is a little different. Some zone chairs are very specific about what they want from you. They will tell you, okay, I want you to fill out this form and just fill in the blanks. Someone else will say, I want you to give me a list of all your new members and how many service activities you've done. Others are going to say, send me a report. And those are the only words they're going to use. Send me a report. They don't tell you what to put in it. They just say, send me a report. So for you new secretaries, especially that are listening, there are some basic information that you can provide in a report if they don't give you the specifics. And so you want to send it to the zone chair prior to the zone meeting so that they have it available. You want to include how many members you have, whether there was any additions or drops within that time period since the last zone meeting. Maybe you're going to highlight the number of service hours and service projects that you actually worked on, any fundraisers that you've done and how much money that got raised from those fundraisers, and any amounts of money that you donated and who you donated to. Now that information is good for the zone chair to know about and good for the district governor to know about. But a lot of times it's pretty boring to hear 6 clubs stand up and go through all that detail. That's why most zone chairs today don't ask you to read out the reports. Some still do, but most don't. Some will ask you to just summarize. But really, the zone meetings, they're called zone advisory meetings. As secretary, you and the president are actual members of that zone advisory committee. You are expected, both of you, to attend the zone meeting. You're also, believe it or not, expected to attend the cabinet meetings. Most don't, which is too bad, but you are expected to do that as part of the advisory committee. What we're hoping is that as the club secretary and your president, that you'll be the spokespersons at your zone meeting. So if there are any issues that you're having problems with, bring them to the zone meeting, ask the questions, see if there's somebody there who's had the same issue or the same problem and has come up with a solution. This is an opportunity for club secretaries and presidents to share their knowledge, to share information, to gain information so that they can go back and make their club a better club. I learned more by visiting clubs and going to zone meetings and going to cabinet meetings than I did in any classroom. So I'm really hoping you're going to take this to heart. Attend your zone meetings, attend your cabinet meetings, and don't be afraid to speak up and ask for help. If you're having trouble getting new members, ask. I'm sure someone around that's going to give you a hand with that, me in particular. If you're having trouble attracting younger members, we've got a couple of clubs in our district that have done an exceptional job at doing that. So speak up and we'll find out who they are and we'll share what they did, what they learned with you so that you can take that back to your club. We've had clubs that come in saying, oh my God, I've got this one person who just will not, cooperate at a meeting. They just, do their own thing and they interrupt all the time. What am I going to do? We had 4 people stand up and give them 4 different tips on what to do and how to handle that individual. This is the benefit of being part of a zone, being part of a district. You get an opportunity to share, because let's face it, a lot of times the problem you're having in your club, 3 other clubs are having the same problem as well. Their names might be different, but the issues are usually the same. So let's share. Let's bring that information together. Let's, take an opportunity to give and take at a zone meeting so everybody wins. Everybody goes home with something new. Does that make sense? Any questions, comments on that?
The only comment I want to add is, I think we talked about it last week, that sadly, a lot of club secretaries have been kind of handed the notepad and the keys and said from the last secretary, and they're kind of on their own. So there's no real succession continuity or planning. So it might be, suggested that just, interacting with other fellow secretaries of other clubs, get to know them in other clubs. And, you might be dealing with something that, you're not sure how to handle, but there's probably a half a dozen other club secretaries in our district that have dealt with the same thing you're going through. So, share that experience. We're Lions, we're here to help. So the more interaction you have, the more likely you are to get a resolution to it.
And to just give you an example of sharing and how we can do that to help each other, we had a discussion at a zone meeting where that sort of issue came up. It was halfway through the year, which made it even worse. And this new secretary went, I don't know what to do. And when I asked the other secretary, they say, well, it's in the books, but she hasn't given me the books yet. And I don't know what to do. And I'm floundering. What do I do? What do I do? And so we said, great, glad you spoke up. Let's sit down. We sat her in front of a computer and we walked her through my LCI and a few other things. And it didn't stop there. We said to her, okay, let's schedule another date. We'll sit down and go through some other stuff with you, and basically gave her a one-on-one training session for secretaries. And another one talked about, the larger clubs, the secretary's job can feel like it gets a little overwhelming sometimes. And so what they did was, and it was part of a succession planning training as well, is they split the job. They had a recording secretary and a correspondence secretary. So one secretary just did the minutes and the motions. The other secretary did all the tracking regarding all the correspondence. The good news about that was the recording secretary, who was the full-fledged secretary, was basically training the other person. Yes, they started them off on the correspondence. Then, I need to take a couple of days off. Can you take the minutes at the next meeting? So it was a slow, gradual thing. But it was great because it got the other person moving in slowly so they weren't overwhelmed. So it's an opportunity for us to, again, share on how we can do that. And I know secretaries in particular get really frustrated when they walk into a new job and the old one walks away, doesn't even look back at them. So that's why we put the secretary's training material together. That's why we're doing what we're doing tonight, to try and help you so that A, you're not going to be stuck. B, hopefully you're going to learn from this and train the next person who's going to replace you.
So Ruth, we have a couple comments and questions related to zone advisory meetings. How many are there and how long are they? And I can answer that typically there's most zones have 3 zone advisory meetings. One is usually when we reconvene after the summer. Back in the olden days, remember we used to have actually club meetings, like dinner meetings. It seems like about 5 years ago, but usually September, October would be the first one, right after the summer, and then late November, early December, or early January for the second one, and the third one's usually around March, in that area. And they all have a focus. The first one's usually membership. The second one's leadership, and the last one is service, or they can switch it around. So, and they generally last, usually they're combined with a dinner meeting. Sometimes they'll impose on one particular club in the district who's meeting on their regular meeting night because they have a caterer already lined up, and have a dinner meeting. They'll charge for members that are the visitors to that club, they're $10 or $15 for the meeting. That the zone chair usually sends out the specs on it in advance. In a perfect world, that they're all set forth and put in the district directory in advance so that you know when they're coming. Obviously, the last year or so, it's been kind of chaotic with the pandemic. A couple more questions in the chat. Well, somebody just said 3 per year, and somebody said, okay, so there you go. Some have 4, but typically it's 3.
Great. Are there any other questions? And it doesn't have to be just about what we covered last time or what we covered tonight. Anything related to secretaries that you may have, please feel free to type it in the chat or wave your hand and we'll unmute or get you to unmute yourself so we can hear you.
Ruth, can you just stop sharing? I want to share something that my former club used to do every year. And it was a bit of a roster, but it had a lot of information on it. And looking back at it, was quite useful and helpful. And I just want to share that.
Please.
You have to stop sharing first, Ruth.
Oh, sorry. Okay, all yours, Jamie.
Okay, so this is something the Bradford Lions Club used to put out every year, compiling in the information. Let me hide this. And looking back at it, it was quite useful. They would put this up, and this would, on the right side, this was kind of a bifold, dual-sided, and it would have the all the executive of the club, all the directors for 1 year, 2 year. It would have district information at this time. This is our own Barb Innes was the district governor at this time, and the region chairs effective for our zone. And then on the other side of this one, it would have, this is all our committees and the Lions members that were serving on the different committees. And it served as a purpose for reporting at the club meeting. So, the first vice these were the committees that he would bring up, raise the questions at the club meetings. The back page, it had the entire roster of all the Lions, their email addresses and phone numbers. So if you had to contact a fellow Lion. Now, sometimes this is a little problematic. It changed through the year. And we also listed every club meeting and event that we had throughout the year. It's not that hard to do because clubs usually meet on a set night twice monthly. Sometimes there's holidays in there, and it's usually around those holidays that there's confusion. We meet on Monday nights, but Monday's a holiday. Do we want to have a club meeting on Labor Day? No, we don't. So we shift them. So it's to kind of get everybody on the same page, but this is easily implemented by a lot of clubs. We used to do this, and we used to compile this list and send it out at the start of the Lions year when we got back together in September. So we'd have it for the whole year. So something that it's a lot of work that goes into this, but once you set it up, not much changes from year to year. Obviously the club executive changes, some of the committees, the members may shift around. Obviously the district officers change, the dates changed, but it's a useful tool that a lot of, it comes in really handy.
Wow, that's great.
So we have questions.
What
do we have here? How do you find your LCI number? So that is on when I'm not sure who's that question from. That is from Luke. So Luke, are you able? You can unmute yourself. Are you able to log into my LCI?
Without my number.
No, because if are you the club secretary?
Not till July 1st.
Okay, so on July 1st, in the early morning hours, you will get an email. Okay.
Yeah,
from
okay,
LCI.
July 1st. Remember the date, July 1st. What happens July 1st, my good fellow Lion?
Yeah.
I
so
will
you-
not be getting up early on July 1st.
Oh, no.
Promise you.
You
I
know,
will be
I'm just telling you,
celebrating.
you'll be getting any. By the time you get up and you have your coffee and you go to check your email, it'll be sitting there waiting for you, and it'll give you your login information. Okay, to set your password, and then once you log in, you'll see your number. If you want to know your number, you can ask your club secretary. I can go find your club number for right now if you want.
Yes,
other
I
Ask
will.
my club secretary.
Say again.
I will ask my club secretary. Thank you.
If you don't get it, please contact us because either Jamie or I can look it up for you.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Another question here. Lori Dean says, does anyone else have trouble entering service for your club? It is always a hit and miss for me getting on.
The good news is the My Lion, where you record that, is that training session is coming up soon. I'm just trying to, actually, I have the date up here. The My Lion is going to be on the 20th of May. And it's at 7:30 at night. So that will allow people to actually go through the process of adding in the service activities. So please, as secretary and all service chairs, that if you have one in your club, please encourage them to sign up for that. As secretary, you should be aware of it. And if you have a separate service chair, they should also be attending that session. Lori, you still had your hand up. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with knowing how to do it. It's actually getting on to do it. When I go to do it, most times I get this circle and circle and circle, and I can never get on. So then I go off and then I go and, days go by and I think, oh, I should go try again. And, it's not getting updated like it should, but it's very frustrating for me because I can never get on. And it's like I say, sometimes
Yeah.
I'll go on and boom, I'm on and I can do it. And then the next time I try, it's not happening. So I just didn't know if it was just
because I know I was having trouble, but I found out it was my which particular I was using Internet Explorer at the time and I needed to upgrade. Once I upgraded, I was fine. Do you know if you're using an older version for your internet or no? Okay. Well, then that's a good question that I would like you to raise when the training is done on the 20th. Is it Len and Randy, I believe?
Yeah.
Yeah, Len and Randy are doing the training. And
My Lion.
Len in particular is really good on My Lion. So both he and Randy have been putting in service activities for quite a while. So they'll be able to probably answer that question better than I can right now.
Also, Lori, are you using Chrome?
Yes, I've used Chrome, Safari. I thought it was because I have a Mac, but I'm told that's not it.
No.
Hmm.
Okay, another question. Ron Cameron, how do we register for this?
If you go to our A12 website, under events, there's an actual list of all of the LLW sessions that we're having. So you can just click on there and that'll take you to the registration.
I'll see if I can post it again.
Okay. Okay, are there any other questions? And again, if you would rather unmute yourself to speak to us, please feel free to do that. Or you can type it in the chat, either or.
Okay, so I'm going to try to post this for everyone. Okay, if you click on that link, it should upload the document for the LLW training schedule. Oh, but that's not gonna, that's just a PDF. It's not gonna take you to the links. That's not the right one. Never mind. I'll have to get the other document.
Okay, well, while Jamie is looking for that other document, I'll just quickly read off the dates of the ones that are coming up. So May 20th is My Lion training at 7:30. On May 27th is My LCI, and that's also at 7:30. And June 6th is the club president's training, which will be done during the day from 9 to 11 and 1 to 3. That's a Sunday. And on June 10th, we have the Lions Learning Center at 7:30. So those are the ones that are still coming. The ones that we have already held, we will be putting them on the YouTube page when they're available. So again, when that happens, hopefully we'll be able to send out a e-blast to let everybody know where the A12 YouTube page is, so people can go and have a look at the ones that they might have missed.
I think I did it on Canva. It's probably best to get it right from the LLW or the A12 website.
Yeah, if you go to the A12 website, a12lions.org.
Yeah.
While I've got the secretaries here, the My LCI and the My Lion is the other half of the secretary's requirements or knowledge base that you really need. Other than what we covered in the first session and tonight, what else would you have liked to have seen covered as a secretary? What other material should we have included, I guess is what I'm asking. Go ahead, Luke.
I'd like to see the hierarchy, the pecking order, if you want, in layman's terms. I've been in the club for 4 years. I don't know much about the pecking order, tuck, 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 from the district to the zone to etc. It's just welcome to the Lions. How you doing? How can you help the community? Sell truck dot tickets.
Okay.
Right? Help out when you can. But nothing had been really explained. It's been like,
Yeah.
hey, here's a job for you. Come on, you're a young guy. Here's a job for you. And I don't mind doing those jobs. I actually like doing those jobs and meeting great people. I've met such wonderful people from the area and from outside of Enval. Amazing people giving their time and energy and knowledge. Congrats.
Some
But
orientation is needed.
What was that,
Yeah.
Barb?
It sounds like orientation would be very helpful for life.
Yes, yes, it would.
not just
And-
here's the bar.
Yeah.
Luke, I do have some orientation material I can share with you, but I'm just going to quickly sort of go through it right now, if the rest of us can just bear with me on this. Okay, I'm going to start at the club level. So, you know, you've got members, you know, you've got a board of directors that are, you know, basically the ones that are supposed to be making most of the decisions. You've got a president, secretary, treasurer, et cetera, as part of your board. The clubs have, there's usually anywhere from 4 to 6 clubs that make up a zone. So the zone is basically run by a person called a zone chair. And they have those 3 meetings a year. They are responsible to visit every club at least once. They in turn work with the district level when we move up, sorry, there's region in between, up to the region level. We have 3 region chairs in our district. So all 46 clubs are in groups of zones. We have 7 of them. And then those 7 zones are split over 3 regions. And those 3 regions basically make up the district. So if I'm doing it like a pyramid, you've got 46 clubs, you've got
3 regions.
Sorry, my zone number just went right out of my head.
We have
7.
seven
And
zones.
then Yeah, and then you've got your 3 region chairs, and then you've got your district. So that's the pecking order, I guess you could call. The thing is, I like to turn the pyramid upside down. I like to think that the district governor and his advisory committee or his committee works for the region chairs. The region chairs work for the zone chairs. The zone chairs work for the clubs executives, and the club executives work for the members. That's how I like to see it.
Agreed.
And I'll try and find my material, Luke, to send you. I'll try and get that material out to you real quick. Any other questions, comments, or anything else you think we should include when we do training?
I'm seeing nothing in the chat.
Okay.
I just want to say a quick hi to Lion Stan. I haven't seen him forever, and it's really nice to see him on the secretary's course because he's been a forever secretary.
Yes, Barb, it's good to see you too. I'm secretary for life in Stevenson down here, so we're going to try and keep up the good work if we can, and keep it going as much as we can.
Keep safe, sweetie.
Yeah, you too.
Great. Okay, well, if there isn't anything else, I want to thank all of you for being committed enough to attend both training sessions, and to thank you for your input, your questions, because like I said, there's no such thing as a dumb question. And by asking those questions, we're sharing information and we're helping each other. Jamie is here, I'm here. Don't be afraid to reach out to either of us. We'll help you any way that we can. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank 2 people. First of all, I would like to thank Jamie for getting me involved and helping me out with these orientation sessions, Lions learning sessions. And I'd also like to thank, and he's not here, unfortunately, Bob Murray, because whenever I do my training materials now, I send him a copy for him to be the editor and make suggestions back to me. And he has done that every time, and all of his suggestions always make good sense to me. So I'm so thankful that I have somebody like that to give me some very critical feedback, which is what I need sometimes. So Jamie, thank you.
I think it's important to note that, you know, the secretary can be a very lonely job, but you are not alone. There's 46 other secretaries in the district, and they're eager, and they would, I know that any of you, if another secretary called you and asked Stan, who's had umpteen years experience as a secretary, and asked his advice, I'm sure he'd be happy to share. We learn from each other, from the experiences we've had. So unlike the experience you may have had in your own club where, okay, you're the secretary, here you go, I'm done. That's not the case elsewhere. So, you know, rest assured that if you have a question, you're not sure about something, there's no such thing as a dumb question. If you don't know the answer to, ask Ruth, ask myself, ask one of the fellow secretaries, but ask another secretary in your neighboring club. And if they don't know the answer, I'm sure they'll find the answer for you. So you're not alone.
And I got a question from Ron Cameron, and I'm just trying to determine whether I understood it correctly. Ron, do you mean, is there a diagram of the hierarchy, or are you asking, is there a recording of this session? Can you unmute yourself and let me know?
A picture.
Of the district?
Well, the hierarchy is,
Yeah,
Luke was asking.
I do have one. I have a couple of pictures in there too. I took some photographs of people, but it's showing, like Peter as the district governor. So I need to update it with John Jackson as being the incoming governor, and change a few other pictures, but I'll definitely send it to you.
I think I have something readily available. If you can just bear with me one sec.
Okay.
Where was I? TLT. Okay. I have something here. So again, if I'll share my screen.
Mhm.
So this is, it's not the pyramid that we're suggesting, but this is how the district is set up. So you have your district governor. I don't know if my cursor is working here on the left, on the right hand side.
It is.
And what you have is you have what they call the GAT, or the Global Action Team. And the Global Action Team consists of the GLT team coordinator, who at this point is myself, and the Global Membership Team Coordinator, who is Ruth, and the Global Service Team Coordinator, who is PDG Randy Hargrave. So we consult with District Governor, at this point, Peter. And then you move to the officers, and you have the immediate past District Governor, this time is myself. You have the Cabinet Secretary, Cabinet Treasurer, and then you've got the region chairs and zone chairs. So we have 3 regions, Region 8, Region 36, and Region 21. So they each have a region chair, and we have 7 zone chairs. So Region 8 is broken up to 8 South and 8 North. So there's 2 zone chairs there. Region 36 is broken up to 36 East and 36 West. So there's 2 there. 21, because it's the northern part of our zone, has 3 zone chairs. So you have 21 West, 21 East, and 21 North. And then you have your second vice district governor, and then you have your first vice district governor. All these persons, all these officers in light blue are voting officers on cabinet. They vote, okay? Nobody else other than these, I think it's 17 or 15 members, have a vote on our cabinet. And then you see all these operational committees that we have. The convention committees, nominating credential, information technology. These are all subcommittees that report to cabinet at cabinet meetings. You notice in the center that this is the District Governor's Advisory Committee, which is the region chairs and zone chairs. This is the zone chairs work in conjunction with the club presidents and secretaries, and they communicate this, at least 3 times a year at the zone advisory meeting. So it's not a one-way communication. It's not that they're going to set up a meeting and then dictate to the presidents and secretaries. This is your opportunity to bring questions forward. For instance, at the International Convention in Montreal this year, LCI, up until 2 months ago, we're looking to raise LCI dues again. In this global pandemic, it's probably not a wise thing to do. They did get a lot of pushback from a lot of clubs who perhaps voiced their opinions or displeasure at these zone advisory meetings. Well, the message got through to LCI, so they have deferred this. I understand the financial end of why they need to raise dues, but this is not the time to do it. So it is not going to be brought forward to vote on at the International Convention in Montreal. That's just one example. But this is an opportunity for, if there's something happening at the club level or in your region or your zone, you can bring that forward to the zone chair. So does this answer your question, Luke, as far as the structure? The only other thing I could say is, like Ruth said, my very first forum, US-Canada Alliance Leadership Forum I was at. Back then, Dr. Yamada was the international president, and I was a club president, and I was at a session with, it was international president with club presidents. And he spoke about this hierarchy, if you will, pecking order of Lions Clubs International, from the international president and all the board of, the first international vice president, second, third international, all the board of directors, down to, you've got the past international directors, you've got your council chairs, you've got your district governors, all the way down to region chairs, zone chairs, club presidents. And he said, the most important member of that whole structure is the club president, supported by the zone chair, supported by the region chair, district governor. And then he corrected himself. He says, that's not right either. the most important member of our organization is the member, supported by the club president, supported by the zone chair. So, you know, pecking order, hierarchy is probably not the right way to put it from a protocol standpoint. In you know, in for decisions and stuff like that, I guess there is a hierarchy per se, but you and your fellow members are the most important members of our association, because without them, we're nothing.
Thank you,
point.
Jamie. Any other questions, comments?
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, guys. Great job.
Well, thank you guys. You're a great audience.
I know I'm a past district governor, but I never sat in on a secretary's training session before. So that's why I just went, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity. So
Great. Well, I'm glad you did. All right. If there's nothing else, then we will call it an evening. We're a little over our time frame again tonight, but I'm hoping it was helpful to everyone.
Thank you so much, Ruth, and thank you all for attending. I think we continue this a week tonight with my lion training with PDG Lenday and PDG Randy. That handles half of the reporting that needs to be done in service reporting. And then we're going to follow up a week later. I think I'm doing the My Lion one, which is the reporting, you know, for secretaries. It's for probably good for officers as well. A lot of information on there. It's good to know that all this stuff reporting that we're doing, it's not that Big Brother's trying to oversee what we're doing. There's valuable information. There's a valid reason why they need all this information, and we'll learn more about that next week.
everybody have a good evening and stay safe.
Okay.
Jamie,
Good
could
night,
you send out
everybody.
a list?